All right. So everyone, extremely sorry for being late for 12 minutes, right? So there was a connection error, and I think now it's fine, and you all are audible about my voice too. All right, we are going to start about the discussion of evolution of political power in Sri Lanka. It's known as pre-state era, right? So we need to know about what does mean by pre-state Debuta. Pre-state, right? The word pre-state means Sri Lanka before becoming a state. Sri Lanka, if we give a definition, Sri Lanka before becoming a state is known as pre-state era. Pre-state era. Sri Lanka before becoming a state is known as pre-state era. Right? Now, to be a state, we need to have three institutions. To be a state, we need to have three institutions. අපිට රටක් එක ස්ටේට් එකක් වීමට නම් that country should possess three institutions. ආයතන තුනක් තියෙන්නට ඕනේ. What were they? මොනවාද ඒ? Number one, we should have the legislature. Legislature. Number two, we need to possess the executive. And last, finally, we need to have judiciary. Judiciary. Do you know the function of each? Well, functions done now. Right? Do you know the functions of each? The legislature means the institution which make laws. Niti hadana ayatana අපි කියනවා legislature. Executive means the institution which implement those laws. අර හදපු නීති ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ කොහෙන්ද? එතන executive council එකකින්. And the council which establish justice. සාධාරණ ඉෂ්ට කරන්නේ judiciary එකකින්. So to be a state, we need these three institutions. But during the pre-state era, we have no these institutions. Right? During pre-state era, we don't have one rule for the entire country. Not having a one rule for the entire country is known as pre-state era. To be a state, we need three institutions: legislature, executive, judiciary. Legislature, executive, judiciary. So during the pre-state time period, Sri Lanka was ruled by several provincial rulers. In the time period of pre-state era, right? In the time period of pre-state era, Sri Lanka was ruled by several provincial rulers. Right? But in the state time period, after Sri Lanka become a state, Lanka was state there was one definite ruler to rule the entire country. One king came. He was known as the king of the country, one who makes others happy. But during pre-state era, no. We don't have one king, but we have several provincial rulers who ruled their specific region, but those rules and regulations are also differ from each place to each area. Now, in the state era, we have one king, one ruler for the entire country. The rules and regulations which are implemented are also equal in each and every area of the country that is known as a state. But we'll discuss about how the administration happened during pre-state era. Pre-state era administration administration of pre-state, right? Administration of the pre-state era. You know, I told you in the beginning, during the pre-state era, no one ruler, therefore we had several rulers, right? Rulers like Gudak in the Buddha. The Api Andutin on the Lanka, Api Andutin in the Navy. Me රටමගේ රටමා ඉපදුණු රට හැදෙන වැඩෙන රට මගේම මව් Just take this as a country, right? So in the pre-state era, so this was divided into several regions, several areas. Podi kotas වලට, podi ගම් වලට, right? Chudi provinces වලට, urban settlements වලට, rural areas වලට. The country has been divided because no one definite ruler to rule the country. මුළු රටම පාලනය කරන definite ruler කෙනෙක් නැහැ. Each and every place was ruled by specific provincial ruler. Just imagine this is right. Abigamu. Just imagine this is village A. Methienne village A. Right? Village A. Alright. So imagine in this village A, we have 5 families, right? We have 5 families in village A. Right? So in village A, we have 5 families. Families pahak tina, Paul pahak inna. Right? Now let me know who is the head of each family. May Paula head of each family, right? So let me know who was the head of each family. Head of each family. Head of the family, Buddha, right? Head of the family we called the special name Gruhapati. Gruhapati, right? Gruhapati. Sangitin ihala yan apaunandu karala. පුරුදු පුහුණු කෙරුවේ දරුණු නීති රීති දමලා අත පසු කම්මුනොත් නපෙන් අඩිය පොළවේ ගහලා කැගැසු හැටින් මත කයි මට තරහෙන් නොරවාලා කවුද father. So father is the head of the family, and then the ancient word given for the father at that time, gruhapati, right? Gruhapati. තාත්තේ අද මට පෙනෙන්නේ ඔබ දෙවියෙක් වාගේ. So in the ancient time period, the head of the family is known as Gruhapati. So according to the inscriptions, right, it gives the evidences where Gruhapatis, the Gruhapatis පිළිබඳව අපිට evidence හම්බෙනවා. ඒ තමයි the inscription known as Periya Puliyan Kulama, right? Periya Puliyan Kulama. Periya Puliyan Kulama inscription reflects about the Gruhapati. So there will be a question for your examination. What was the inscription, or from where we can get evidences related to Gruhapati, head of the family, Periya Puliyan Kulama, right? Periya Puliyan Kulama give evidences related to Gruhapati, head of the family. Now you can see each family, now each village consisted with several families, and head of the family is known as Gruhapati. Head of the family is known as the Gruhapati. Now I told you that now this village A has 5 families. May village A ke puta families pahak tino. There were 5 families, right? So each family, when we take each family, head of each family is known as Gruhapati, father. But if I ask, who is the head of this village? May Gamema Lokka Kauda. Head of each village. Gamela Sanamaleli Apayama Givebi. Nubamang Ekala in the Tower Headed Penevi. Head of each village, Puta. The head of the village, may Gam Pahema Lokka. The head of the village was given a special name. He was known as Gamika. He was known as Gamika, right? Gamika. In today, we call Grama Sevaka, head of the village, right? Head of the village is known as Gamika, Hemanatan Grama Sevaka. Head of the village, Gamika or else Grama Sevaka. In today, Gamika or Gramika was used in the ancient time period. You know that the Buddhaghosa Thero, right? Buddhaghosa Thero has written a text. So in that text, which was known as Samanta Pasadika, mentioned about whom? Mentioned about Gamikas, right? What was the text which mentioned about Gamikas, or the head of the village? Samanta Pasadika. So now there will be several questions for your exam paper. What is a pre-state? How do you answer, Buddha? A pre-state means Sri Lanka before becoming a state. And to be a state, we should have three institutions. The legislature, executive, and judiciary. Right? And during the pre-state era, we do not have one definite king who can rule the entire country. Instead, had several provincial, regional rulers who ruled their area only. Right? When talking about the administration, you know that the country was divided into several regions and it consisted with lots of villages, Puta, right? And the village is consisted with several families. When taking each family, head of that family is known as Kaudamagraptala. Ito ay Gruhapati. Gruhapati pilibanda kiyo ni inscription ng nam Periye Polian Kulama. And taking the entire village, mulu gama magando, me game mulu kakauta. The head of each village is known as Gamika or else Gramika. Gamika or else Gramika. We can get evidences from Samanta Pasadika, which was done by Buddha Gosathero. Buddha Gosathero. Right? And do you know that there were actually 10 panel leaders, right? Abigamuko, each village at that time, Puta, Ekali Gamak, each village was based on a tank. Hama Gamak na Puta based on a tank, right? Each village was based on a tank, right? I think you can see this, right? Imagine this is a tank, okay, on the Vavakti Hari, on the Vava. Isan maguran lokueligoan meden alapumalu. So a villages were centered around the tank system. Buddha. On the village A, village B, village C, village D, right? Village E, right? So villages were centered around the tank system. Buddha. Samanya gamak hadin ni centered around the tank. May vavak father කරගෙන වැවක් බේස් කරගෙන tank එක බේස් කරගෙන තමයි පුතා ගමක් හැදෙන්නේ. Right? A village was centered around the tank system. Right? So if a villages was centered around the tank system, we gave a common word for this. මොකක්ද? ඒ තමයි වාපිගාම. වාපිගාම. Right? වාපිගාම. The Matikan what is known as Wapigan Puta. Wapigan means villages centered around the tank system. Right? Wapigan means Putam Kadena, Apikina Wapigan means villages centered around a tank system. Vavak Watakiragana Gam Kihipya had no thing. It is known as Wapigam. Can you give some examples for Wapigam examples? Keep at the Nepuluan Butala. Not Yanaban. Ani didn't go on answer. Sumanava Pigam Viharava Pigam Undiriva Pigam and Kadhava Pigam Sumanava Pigam Viharava Pigam Undiriva Pigam Kadhava Pigam. So there were some examples for villages Puta, Sumanavapigam, Viharavapigam, Hundrivapigam, Kadhavapigam. And what does mean by a Vapigam? Villages centered around a tank system is known as Vapigam. Now just take each village. Abigam made in village A, village B, village C, D, E, F, G, right? These are villages. Okay. So we know that. So just imagine in village A, that become a village A. So in village A, imagine 5 families. Village B, we have 6 families. Village C, we have 4 families. Village D, we have 3 families. And village E, we have 8 families. Village F, we have 9 families. Village G, we have 10 families. All right. Just imagine. All right. So then now the head of each family is known as how the Gruhapati. Gruhapati. Head of each village. Me game maloka kaluda game malokha vanne gamika gramikai. Gamika or as Gramika is the head of village. Then if I ask who is the head of all those 10 villagers? Me okkuma gamwala lokka which was centered around the tank system. Me webak wata karagin hadunu me gam kihipe puta kauda lokka. An itra dabit hamena Parumaka, right? Parumaka. So Parumaka is the head of all the villagers, right? Centered around what? Centered around the tank system. Gamak, Vavak, Watagaragan had this gum kihipe, Maloka about Patin Putaitama Kauda, Parumaka. The inscription which let us know about the Parumaka is known as Kotgal Kand. Kotgal Kand, right? Kotgal Kand. Explain about Parumaka. Periya Puliyan Kulama mention Gruhapati. Koravangal inscription mention Gamika. Gamika मतलब देखा कभी हमने कहा तुम्हारा Samantha Pasadika. The other one is known as Koravangal inscription, right? Koravangal inscription. Samantha Sadhika and Korvagal inscriptions. This is known as the administration of the ancient pre-state era. Administration of the pre-state era. Right? Then I will right? I'm asking what does mean by a pre-state? Pre-state means Sri Lanka before becoming a state is known as pre-state, right? We need to have the institutions for the pre-state. One is known as legislature, executive, and judiciary. Right? Then discussing about the administration. So when discussing about the administration, when the country was divided into several regions, and those regions were ruled by a specific provincial ruler. So a country was consisted with villagers, and villagers consisted with several families. The head of each family Gruhapati la la la. And then Apigato thing, Hari Gruhapati head of each families. Who is the what is the inscription that I mentioned about Gruhapati Puta? The inscription which mentioned about Gruhapati is known as Periya Puliyan Kulama, right? Periya Puliyan Kulama. Periya Puliyan Kulama Gruhapati. Periya Puliyan Kulama Gruhapati. Periya Puliyan Kulama Gruhapati. Hari. The head of the village, head of the entire village, Mulu Game Malok about a pattern how the Ithamai Ratarang, the Gamika Ematan Gramika. Hari, the Gamika or Gramika is the head of each village. The inscription which mentioned about Gamika or Gramika is known as Abhikima Samantha Pasadika or else Koravangal inscription mention Gamika. And head of the several villages based on a tank system based on Vapigama, Parumaka, which mentioned about the inscription Kotgal Kand. This is known as the administration of the pre-state era, right? So there will be several questions from this part for your examination, right? Especially for the grade 10 first term exam, as well as for your all exam. Many questions based on this part about the administration and pre-state era, right? So hopefully you understood. I think this very short session to explain which is what is known as pre-state and the administration of pre-state era. You are okay, I think, right? So we'll meet next day once again by doing another session, right? So please take this as an advantage for your first term examination. Thank you all.